Phil Vischer. Welcome back to the podcast. This is the 200th episode of the Phil Vischer podcast. Cue the applause track.
There was much rejoicing.
There was much rejoicing. I'm here with Skye, Jethani.
Hi, Phil.
Hi, Skye. And Christian Taylor.
Hi, Phil.
Hi. I'm going fast because we have a lot of questions to answer.
I figured that.
You know, there's a lot of, so I'm going to do the theme song now. People say you don't do it at VeggieTales voices anymore. Why? All right, we'll do Mr. Nezzer.
Hey, it's a podcast. What do you know? Hey, it's a podcast. And we got video. Hey, it's a podcast. So land in here. The Phil Vischer podcast starts right here. We'll talk to Skye.
Hi, Mr. Nezzer.
And the bunny, too.
Hi, Mr. Nezzer.
Hi, bunny. And we got no guest because it's a 200th podcast here for you.
Woohoo!
Hey, it's a podcast, so land in here. The Phil Vischer podcast starts right here. The Phil Vischer podcast starts right here.
Okay, and we can just answer that question right off the bat. Was one of the first questions was, I've noticed, this is from Jonathan Lopez, I've noticed that after a while you decided to no longer sing the theme song with your character voices from both VeggieTales and What's in the Bible like you used to. I miss that, by the way. I was wondering why you stopped doing it and if there's any chance that gimmick can make a comeback. Look, it just did. The gimmick made a comeback. I may retire it again. I felt it was a gimmick that had outworn its welcome.
There are only so many characters.
Yeah, I thought you ran out of characters.
I did. We went through all the characters, and then it's like, do you start doing laps?
And then people didn't ask anymore.
No.
That's
Except
a clue.
they were making up weird things that nobody knew about.
When people stop asking, that's a clue.
When people stop asking you to do your funny voices, it might be time to stop doing your funny voices.
I've been asking about that ukulele for a long time.
Yeah, but we know that you're biased. You have an you're ukulele-phobic.
I would prevent all ukuleles from entering the country.
You'd
build a wall.
I would build a ukulele wall.
You have eucophobia.
Do you know there is an app that you can build Trump's wall with?
How?
They have made an app
Legos?
to build Trump's wall. Yeah, something like that. Uh-huh. It's an app you get on the App Store to build his wall. Yeah. My teenagers were doing it yesterday during Mother's Day.
Well, I hope Mexico gets the app.
I do too.
If we get the app, does Mexico pay for it?
Yeah. No, there's
Do they get the money to pay for the real wall?
There's one in-app purchase, and it's $25 billion, and Mexico needs to pick it up. Okay, before we go into all the questions, we do have news.
Big news.
Big news
Woohoo.
for the 200th episode.
Can't wait.
For the future of the Phil Vischer podcast and everything that might spin off of it, similarly toned and humorous, we hope. We have had people request for a long time, how can we support the podcast? Why don't you guys, numerous people have said, do a Patreon campaign? If you don't know what Patreon is, it's like Kickstarter. You probably know what Kickstarter is. It's where bands raise money to do albums, or it's crowdfunding. Crowdfunding. The crowd doing the funding for the people who want to make things. Kickstarter is if you want to make a film and it's a one-time project. Patreon is like Kickstarter, but it's for ongoing expenses like podcasting or blogging or artists or musicians that want to do a song a month and they have their fans help support it. So, we're launching a Patreon campaign. You can go to patreon.com, Patreon.com, and type in my name, Phil Vischer, or there'll be a link on Facebook and everywhere else that we are, because I'm going to launch the Patreon campaign right now. I'm pushing the launch button.
I'm verifying. He's done it!
It literally says
He's
launch.
done it! Woo!
Success. Don't forget to set up your unique Patreon URL and upload a profile. I did that, or I did that already.
We're having technical
difficulties. Well, hopefully it works. So patreon.com, look for Phil Vischer podcast or just Phil Vischer, and you will hopefully get this page. Why? Why do we need your support? Well, Skye and I have been doing this as a hobby, and Christian, whenever we drag her in, doing this as a hobby for 4 years. Skye doesn't really have a job. My employment is highly suspect. Christian's the only one who really knows how to make a living of the three of us.
Yeah, but every day I wake up needing a new job.
That is true.
We are all part of the gig economy at this point.
But we have more ideas. See, Skye comes from magazine publishing, which is a dying art. I come from making direct-to-DVD children's programming, another dying art. But we're creative people. We have other ideas for how you can get Christian messages out there into culture and help people engage with culture. But it can't really be something that we do entirely in our spare time. And we do have someone helping us, Jason. Hi, Jason.
Hi, Jason.
Jason is helping us, so I'm paying Jason out of my own pocket, which is okay because he's doing good work. But
he's not paying Skye and I, just FYI.
We'd rather you pay Jason out of your own pockets if it's all the same. So we're looking to viewers like you and/or listeners like you, depending on if you have eyeballs or just ears for the show, to help support it, like Downton Abbey, and then we can pay Jason, and we can even buy more of his time, and then we can make more stuff because we do have more ideas.
T-shirts.
And a new website that we want to start working on, and maybe some spin-off podcasts or video short programs, or who knows what. We have lots of ideas. You can help us make all of our dreams come true.
Do you want to explain how Patreon works with the different,
Patreon, you sign up for a certain amount a month. So on our site, it can be as little as $2 a month. Can you afford that?
Yes.
So that's what, 50 cents an episode?
50 cents an episode. We will talk for 45 minutes for you for only 50 cents. Is that
that sounds fair.
Best deal?
I think we're selling ourselves cheap.
I think so. And then you get things at different levels. For $2 a month, you don't get squat. No, you get a warm, fuzzy feeling that you're helping the show. And then it goes up. You can put in $5 a month and $10 a month. And you can actually put in as much as you want. But if you're at $10 a month, we will do Skye and I are going to do a monthly with guests. Christian, if she's in the area, someone else, if they're in the area, are going to do a monthly live stream Q&A. So you can send us questions and we can answer them live as you ask them.
So it's like we're having a real conversation with us.
A real conversation.
Unfiltered.
Not like one of these
and that's
conversations.
I've always said the best stuff on this podcast happens before and after. So maybe it'll be similar.
Exactly. So go to Patreon, look it up, help us out. You can support high-quality, weird There's enough high-quality, weird podcasting that's safe for the whole family.
Oh, I don't want to put that tagline on.
Sometimes this is not always safe for the family.
We had an episode a couple ago that were...
I know, but we learned a valuable lesson.
But on the grander scheme of things, I just feel like there isn't really good, thoughtful, and yes, sometimes funny Christian media out there. It's either fear-mongering, or it's sentimental, or it's completely irrelevant. And this is one of the few outlets that brings it all together. So I think it should increase in number. And we can spin off multiple podcast shows and different website resources and things.
Right.
So
coloring pages. We're going to do some coloring pages. You can color Skye in whatever shade of black and kind of brownish you want.
I think that's racist.
Your clothes.
Oh,
I was referring to your clothes.
I don't wear brown.
I would like to do my own
That was your head.
podcast if we can throw that in there.
Do what?
I want to do my own podcast.
Oh, Christian wants to do her own podcast.
That's more substantive and spiritual.
Oh,
Than this?
Well, yeah, like
that was a slam right there.
No, not like me being more spiritual, but more focused on like, we don't get into like spiritual discussions in terms of like what the Bible says and how that impacts.
We should have John Walton on the show. Oh, wait, we have 4 times.
I'm talking about something different.
Sheesh, more devotional.
Or at a deeper level.
Like My Daily Bread.
That's too sentimental. Not like that.
More Precious Moments.
Not like that either.
With God Daily Devotional.
More like that.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Which you can
like
also
that.
subscribe to.
Christian is going to do a weekly podcast where she reads aloud Skye's daily devotional.
That could work.
You know what? Maybe we need an audio version of the devotional, and you can.
work.
There you go.
But it should be in a voice so soothing that it could actually help you go to sleep.
I've been thinking actually, and I'm not lying.
This is Skye's daily devotional.
I've been thinking about Deep Thoughts with Jack Handy.
I remember
and how
that.
we need a Christian version of that. Like deep theology with John Walton.
Yeah.
And it's just one sentence of deep theology that ends with a weird
That's
something.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a few questions to go through. So we're going to go through our questions now because we don't want any of you to say, hey, they answered everyone's question but mine. We don't want anyone to say that, especially say it in that voice because that would be really irritating.
Annoying.
Lee asked, do you know how to pronounce Lee's last name?
I don't have anything in front of me.
Deschênes?
Lee Deschênes. It sounds French. Are you French, Lee?
Deschênes? I don't know.
Lee says, are you still in touch with some of the former Veggie cast? And can you please also explain how these people got to do voices for, quote unquote, your Veggie Tales? I guess that means the old ones. For example, Dan Anderson, Gail Freeman, Jim Poole. Okay, Dan Anderson, he was the voice of Dad Asparagus. He went to church. He was a good friend of mine. He went to church with me. In fact, Jim Poole also went to church with me in Chicago when I started Veggie Tales. And the three of us, me, Jim Poole, and Dan Anderson, did dramas in church. And we wrote some of them, and we probably did 10 or 20 where we acted together. Jim Poole is a Second City grad. Dan Anderson is a copywriter for corporate training videos and trade shows. And so the three of us had fun acting together at church, and I invited them both. Jim Poole's Scooter the Carrot. Dan Anderson was Dad Asparagus. Gail Freeman was actually a Chicago area voice talent, a voice actress who we used for several voices in the first couple of episodes before she realized that we were non-union. And then we couldn't use her anymore because it was messing with her union eligibility, and we had to pull her out. So mostly friends from church. The
Well,
original
and some friends of
voices.
church were not hired when they auditioned. Just saying.
That was much later.
It was.
These were all friends from Chicago church.
That was
Yeah,
when
yeah.
they were more discerning.
Yeah. No, I wasn't auditioning, I think, until the 321 Penguins with the grandma. The grandma's what I auditioned.
Yeah, that was much later.
Yeah.
Okay. Mackenzie Evans Martz. Mackenzie Evans Martz. That's where I buy all my Mackenzie Evanses. Congratulations on 200 episodes. This podcast has meant a lot to me, and so I appreciate getting to hear your perspective each week. So, questions. Has discussing and debating different theological or social topics over the last 3.5 years greatly changed your viewpoints on anything, or has it rather reinforced ideas you already held?
I'm thrown by the word greatly.
Greatly, yeah.
I think some ideas have definitely grown or adapted or shifted.
I
but
think
wouldn't
this
call it
question's for me.
greatly.
Christian,
Oh.
what do you think?
I've changed a lot in the last 4 years
Yeah.
because I would say, and I was telling my mom this earlier, before this podcast, I think I was in the camp of being really affected by the fear-mongering. And also, I easily jumped along with kind of what the right wing, whether it's politically or conservative, Christian-wise,
Right.
would say.
Whatever we label that wing.
Whatever we label it. Yeah, whatever that is.
Represents one side of the bird.
Yeah. And so what I've learned is I've learned to think more critically about both sides of the issue. And
Do you know
not,
what the bird is? It's the American eagle.
Yeah, I
That's
didn't.
the bird.
That is the
And
bird.
if we live only on one wing of the bird, and we never even get to know the other wing of the bird,
We go in a tailspin?
the bird flies poorly.
Yeah.
Jesse Jackson used to say that all the time. He'd say,
As eloquently as I just did?
but he would say it with some kind of like Dr. Seuss
Really? Yeah.
rhyme. And
The bird
you need
fly
it needs two wings to fly, he would say.
This bird can't fly with one wing.
That's your-
Justice.
That's your Jesse Jackson?
That's not very good.
You need time to like work on
I
a
thought it was
voice
pretty
before you
good.
throw
No,
it out there.
I can do any voice just off the top of my head cold.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
Especially not Australian.
Ooh,
The bird
she's throwing it down.
will fly off the bobby.
Oh, gosh.
Thank you. Okay.
Anyway, so
So you feel like you have changed.
I feel like I've changed a lot and become a lot more critically thinking about all of those things. And I have merged more towards the middle than I was before.
We are trying to create gravity in the middle
Yeah.
of the bird.
And you've been successful with
Which
me.
is really the meaty, delicious part,
I think it's the gizzard.
the gizzard.
We are the gizzard of American democracy.
Oh, gosh.
Thank you.
okay. What's next?
How I have changed actually is I have been surprised that people we have on the show that I think this is my mortal enemy,
Yeah.
it can actually be friends.
Yeah.
So I keep having, it starts with Peter Boghossian. It's like, oh man, this guy's going to hate me, and we end up becoming friends. And we have Neil Carter, and oh man, and we become friends. And we just had him at Meta. I can't find an enemy who will just stay an enemy.
Yeah.
Every time I sit down and have a conversation with an enemy, they become a friend. And that to me is actually encouraging for the future of the world.
Right.
That if you just sit down with the people that you think are supposed to be your enemy and you let them talk. And some people have criticized like the atheist interviews. They say, well, you're not really sticking it to them. You're not really pushing them on why they believe what they believe. And I don't think that's productive. And I would rather hear them talk than really push them. And I've been, so I no longer look at anyone. Okay, let's just pick a name. Lucian Greaves, our favorite Satanist. Mm-hmm. I would have said, I could never get along with him,
But now you wonder, don't you?
But now I think we could probably be friends.
Yeah.
I haven't met anyone that I haven't been able to be friends with, and I think that's really cool.
And I think that's another huge thing. I would have never talked to an atheist before, or even,
Because it might rub off on you.
It would be a fear thing. I would be too afraid.
Atheist cootie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Jonathan Parsons says, also Mackenzie says, Phil, my family and I greatly enjoyed Galaxy Buck. Any more space adventures on the horizon? Space adventures, horizon.
Get it?
I get it. Not currently, no. And the reason was I knew Galaxy Buck was a risk. And the reason it was a risk is because it was a direct-to-DVD film in an age where people are stopping buying DVDs. So it was always kind of risky to say, is this the last one of these that we can pull off? And it probably was. It will be very hard. I was thinking the other day that I feel, because like 5 or 6 different people asked, what's your next project? What are you doing next? And it's tricky because I build a specific kind of product, have my whole life, which is not movies and not TV shows, but in the middle, little movies for home video. And that has basically died. You can't really do that anymore. So I feel like I build single-family homes in a world that now only buys tents and skyscrapers. They don't want single-family homes anymore. So you want skyscrapers, which are Pixar movies, and tents, which are YouTube videos. And
can't you go straight to Netflix or Apple TV or?
No.
I think you need to be a tent maker.
Netflix will only do funding deals with large companies. They don't work with any small.
So there is no place that you can go to. There's no distribution channel that you can take the little things you make.
No.
Maybe you should invent that.
Jelly Telly. I tried.
Oh.
And they're still working on it. Jelly Telly still exists, but there are numerous Christian Netflix attempts. The Dove Award people have started one. Pureflix has started one. I forget who else has started one. None of them have been able to generate enough revenue to be able to commission original programming. So right now, the problem has not been solved, which makes it a little bit
So YouTube's your
fuzzy.
only option.
Well, and this is a trend that...
But there's no money.
Right.
This is a trend throughout the culture and in many industries. It's called the well curve.
What does that mean?
The what?
The well curve. You know the bell curve.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? The distribution curve that's common in many areas. The well curve is an inversion of that. It used to be
Is
that...
it based on Lawrence Welk?
No, well.
Welk curve. The Welk curve?
No, the well, W-E-L-L.
The Welk?
Like
He's
a hole
playing
in
with
the
your
ground.
head. Stop
I'm aware.
answering
He's
him.
not playing with anything.
Just
So
answer the question.
So the trend has always been, like movies, for example, there'd be a few really big budget movies every year on one end of the thing.
Yeah.
A few people who do some small, independent little home thing, and then a whole bunch of stuff in the middle, the home video market, television movies, all that. Well, now it's the opposite. You have the big, huge blockbuster movies, and you have everyone on YouTube, and then the middle is gone.
Right.
And that's happening in churches, for example. You have the growth of mega churches and the growth of house churches, and medium-sized churches are shrinking. So in industry after industry, you're seeing that the middle is being evacuated.
That's like the middle class is being evacuated.
Like we talked about last week. So
Are
this is
those
a,
related?
Am I a victim of China?
this is a mega trend, as they call them,
Do I need to build a wall around something?
around videos.
Videos?
think it's too late now.
All right, okay. Next question. Jonathan Parsons says, Christian, have you found a house yet after your family was evicted?
Oh, thank you for asking that.
Are
We're
you still-
quite
They're
evicted.
living here in the studio under the desk, under the studio desk.
The wonderful news is our landlord said that we could stay there until our house closed.
Okay.
The challenging.
find a house.
We put an offer on a house, but it's a short sale and it's kind of a mess. So I would love prayers for that offer to be accepted and for us to move in quickly.
Okay.
But it's good. Things are good.
Okay, awesome.
My mother's been here for 3 weeks to help me pack, so that's been accomplished.
That's a lot of packing.
It's a lot of
That's a lot of packing. Phil, have you made a profit yet from What's in the Bible, and how many subscribers does Jelly Telly have?
Boy, that's straight to the heart.
I've gotten some royalties off What's in the Bible. I've not made a profit off What's in the Bible per se. Once again, being a victim to the Lawrence Welk curve that's sucking the bubbles out of the middle of the market. Get the bubble reference, Lawrence Welk?
I got
Bubbles.
it.
You
I
get-
didn't
yeah,
get that.
you're not old enough. Okay. And subscribers
did
on
used to
Jelly
watch
Telly,
him.
I think that's confidential information that I'm not allowed to release.
Why?
I have business partners.
Oh.
I can't just go spouting. I just can't say things like that. I can't. I just can't. And that's all there is to it. Catherine Fisher, question. What's a typical week like for each of you guys? Because I understand that none of you have typical 9-to-5 jobs. How do you divide the week working on each of your projects?
That's an interesting question.
Yes, it is.
Skye.
Skye.
It depends on the week.
That's kind of what I was going to say, too.
Yeah, like this week,
Yeah.
I don't have any travel. I'm working on a book manuscript of mine that has to be in by June 1. I'm working on editing a book for someone else through Zondervan, so that's going on. I'm writing some articles for another ministry. I'm doing some consulting work, so it's kind of all divvied up. And in the midst of all that, I'm trying to write my devotional every day, which I usually get up at 6 in the morning and write the devotional for the next day. Usually once a week I write a
When do you
longer
have
piece.
devotions, or is devotions reading the devotional you wrote the day before?
This sounds silly, but I usually read before I go to bed something, and then I write when I wake up.
So you're a night devotion person, but a morning devotional.
Yeah, I guess so.
person.
It's not always that way, but there are times and when I have to adjust that. And then it's just my own stuff. It's writing my own articles every week, or you and I have been talking about new stuff with this podcast that we've been working on. So it's fitting that in. But if I'm traveling, it's a whole nother animal, because then it's I have to preach on Sunday and it's a new sermon, that totally
Right,
so it's always
right.
every weekend I have to look at the week ahead and go, here's how I'm going to
Do you
use it.
prioritize based on due date?
Oh, absolutely.
basically?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Me too.
Without a due date, nothing gets done.
Right, and I don't have a whole lot of clear due dates except for every Monday we record a podcast. So there are people that are trying to fundraise to do more production projects, but it's difficult because it's hard to tell them when and how they'll get their money back. So I'm kind of between projects, and you just chase the
Well, I have
They call
touch
you.
points in my day
touch points
that
I like
are
that.
the same, such as getting my kids up and taking them to school every day, because I'm still a stay-at-home mom. That's my first
I
priority.
usually help with that every morning.
Do you?
Yeah.
So,
My office is at home, so
yeah.
that's why I get up at 6 to do my devotional, because
Right.
a little bit later everyone's up and it's chaos.
Yeah, and I try to do my devotional right after I get everybody out from school, and your devotional, except I just read yours. And then, I come here on the podcast on Mondays, and I have to pick up my kids from school in the afternoon and make dinner every night. And then I try to work in the jobs that I have, sometimes before 7 in the morning and sometimes in the evening.
So would
and
you
on the
say your
weekend.
weeks are a little? Would you say they're a little
Discombobulated?
disorganized?
No.
No, they're organized?
It's pretty much, I've got it clicking.
Okay.
It's just unpredictable.
Yeah.
So, I have no idea what I'm doing tomorrow other than those
Yeah.
touch points.
Okay.
And so, because if I get a job, I have to do it right then.
Yeah,
Or if
you
I
have to
have to
drop
go in,
everything.
you have to drop everything. And if I have to go into the city, I have to work all those other touch points around that. And so
Okay.
I think, don't you think that's what's hard? Is creating
Yeah.
order when you
Yes.
don't really know, and then putting a skeleton around your day when you don't have somebody saying you have to do this?
Yeah, my
Yeah.
days are filled with skeletons. It's very scary.
Yeah.
Okay. She follows up, how did you know Christian, and how did you know she'd be a good fit for the podcast? I've known Christian for how many years?
20,
20
almost.
years. Went to the same church and common friends. And she was getting back into production. And I was inspired by how she was going about it, and she was also starting to do some producing. And we were talking about, hey, why don't we do a talk show, a real talk show, like a half-hour talk show that we would make every week.
A TV talk
like
show.
a TV talk show. And so I picked Christian to try to
'Cause
put
I was
together, and I knew her, to produce a few pilot episodes. And Skye came on as a co-host. And we ended up not finding a way to do the talk show for any money.
But
or
wait a
to
second
go
now.
anywhere.
We
What?
did 4 of them.
I know we did 4 of them.
And we had guests on them.
Yeah, a
and
live audience.
We should
live
throw those up on
audience.
YouTube.
I'm scared of that.
They were actually really good, I thought.
I'm scared
and
of it.
You were a good host, other
Thanks.
than when you would say things you shouldn't.
I still
never do
remember
that.
Phil and I would have lunch once a week, roughly, just as
Yeah.
friends to have lunch, and we would talk about work or what you're up to. And you said you wanted to do a talk show,
Yeah.
and I said that's great. And then he said, I'd like you to be on it, and I said I'd be happy to come on it. And he said, no, I want you to be on it like
Every time.
every time,
All of it.
And I said, well, what are we going to do? And you said this. We're going to do this. It was like a Seinfeld episode. We're just going to talk about what we talk about at lunch. And I'm like,
Talk.
okay, that's how it
Well,
started.
and when you said, hey, will you help me do this TV talk show thing? I was like, of course. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'll figure it out. And we all figured it out. And it ended up being,
200 episodes later.
yeah. So then it didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And we still enjoyed the thing we were doing.
Repartee.
And we had to just figure out something to do.
Well, and if you recall, those of you who go back to the early episodes of this podcast, we just sat at a table over there, and it was audio only,
Right.
which meant we didn't have to worry about our appearance,
Right.
which was nice.
So nice.
I didn't shave for weeks.
You were usually in your swimsuit.
Sweats.
Speedo.
Whatever. And then I don't know what episode it was that we decided let's go kind of back to the talk
Well,
show
I
idea
think
with the video.
I built the set.
Yeah.
And the set was sitting there, and Christian kept saying, well, why don't we just move
I know,
over
what was
there
I thinking?
and record over there and turn on the cameras? And I was
I
like,
know.
seriously? You want to make that commitment? And she said, yes. I love to
What was I
have to be
thinking?
presentable every Monday morning.
Yeah.
Okay. Laura Beth says, have you heard of the Happy Rant podcast? Have you?
No.
No.
No, me neither. We'll check it out.
We're podcast narcissists.
Yeah, we only listen to our own, and we listen to it
That's not
repeatedly.
true.
That's not true.
Have you asked Barnabas Piper to come on the show? I think he's on the Happy Rant podcast. Do you know Barnabas Piper?
I don't think I've met him in person, but we know each other.
Is he a son of John Piper?
He is the son of John Piper.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay. Yeah.
He might not want
And
to come on
then,
the podcast.
No. He would be good, actually.
what was your favorite podcast all around? What? Like episode?
I think they mean because I actually do listen to other podcasts, not other Christian
Yeah, so do
podcasts,
I.
but I do listen to other podcasts.
Yeah, so do I. Favorite episode? What's your favorite episode? Do you have one?
I don't know if I do. It's hard to. I mean, it's like picking your
Yeah.
favorite child out of
I
your
know.
I
200.
went through a bunch.
They're
I have
all-
a list.
Do you?
Yes.
Okay. What do you
so
got?
the Todd Komarnicki one was a really favorite one
Oh,
of mine.
yeah, very early on.
Yep. And Oz Guinness was a favorite
Oz
one.
was good. He was
I
very
really,
early
really
too.
liked
yeah.
him.
So we really peaked in about week 4.
I really like that one.
Oz is good anytime.
Yeah. And then I really love the John Walton ones.
Yeah,
I
those
mean,
are fun.
You know, he's great.
You learn lots.
I have been, my thinking has been reshaped by John Walton.
I do like the atheist ones. Just
yeah.
getting to know people that, because it's easy to have people on that you completely agree with. It's
And
much more
Charlie,
interesting.
what was that pastor's name?
Charlie Dates.
Charlie Dates. I
Pastor
really
Charlie.
liked that
yeah.
one.
Yeah, we're trying to get him
There
back
have
on.
been some where I don't think there was a guest on, but it was just so funny. Some of the
But which
things
ones?
that-
I don't remember
were
those.
some-
like I
ones
remember
that
the
were
one
real-
with
a
the
lot
one with the
funnier.
bottomless pants.
Oh, yeah.
That was a
Yeah.
But
classic.
there were some
and-
that were clean. And
that was clean.
Hey, do you listen to other people's podcasts? I think your scale of what is clean is a little skewed.
Okay, audience members, what do you think?
Skewed. My favorite episodes were any that involved the subject of modesty.
Yes.
The only topic that actually made our audience decrease in size.
Well, that was your Beyonce theory, wasn't it?
Am I?
That started with that.
I don't know if maybe it started with that. Okay, Clayton says, knowing you're a Muppet fan, what do you think of the new series on ABC? I actually never watched it because it seemed a little disturbing that they were trying to take the Muppets in a more adult direction. Not a big fan.
I watched an episode.
Not that you couldn't do a show like that, but to take characters that were generally kids' characters and make them edgy and more adultish. Not a big fan of that. Did you?
I watched one episode. That should tell you.
That's all you're going to say?
Yeah.
Okay. Aaron says, how did Big Idea get Rob Paulson involved with VeggieTales? Rob Paulson is a fairly well-known voice actor who does lots of characters that you've probably heard of. I think they asked him, and then they offered him money. That's pretty much how it works. Everybody's looking for work.
That's a pretty good definition of prostitution.
Oh, come on.
Skye.
What?
Oh, see,
I'm
we
just saying
lost
you took a business idea.
You know, I actually had somebody that said that to me once. I did a political campaign for a really liberal guy, and that was basically the
voiceover,
insinuation. Yeah, that you know,
that you sold your
I'm
soul.
Just I sold myself for money.
You're a shill.
Yeah.
What's a plumber?
But aren't we all?
What's a plumber?
I mean, aren't we all?
Well,
Aren't we all hookers? Is that what you're saying?
I'm going to go to the next question now.
Wow.
No, we all sell ourselves.
Gabriela Martinez says, a question from Puerto Rico.
Ooh.
Which authors helped shape your perspective on theology?
Well, there have been many. Why are you looking at me? You're both looking at me.
Okay,
Like
Christian, you want to go first?
Skye, Jethani.
Well, that's very kind.
And I'm not just saying that because you're sitting on
And
my left.
Phil Vischer.
Actually, Phil, you have.
My book? My book, maybe a little?
Your book?
No.
Maybe I've heard the story so much it wasn't necessarily the book. Actually, it was more the what's in the Bible.
Oh, what's in the Bible? I'm a theologian
Yeah.
too.
Well, you know, what you and I both do in different ways is we take the theological work of
Giants.
Of giants.
And we run away with it.
Which is why I relate.
and we put the cookies on a lower shelf.
Yes.
And we paraphrase it.
It's why I
hope
get it.
nobody notices.
No. You take these big, huge things, you boil them down into bite-sized pieces that simple-minded individuals like myself,
Yep.
and you know, smarter ones as well.
Put the cookies on a lower shelf.
Yeah.
I like that. So that everyone can get diabetes, not just tall people.
That's right.
That's
Yes,
fantastic.
exactly.
But it's divine diabetes.
I enjoy.
I didn't finish mine.
Oh, sorry.
Skye and Phil, what else is there to say?
There were more.
There's more?
There's more.
Okay.
C.S. Lewis,
Ah, yes. I've heard of
George
him.
MacDonald, Oswald Chambers,
Oh.
Brother Lawrence.
Ah. That was nice. That was like a fireworks show.
So but look at who you guys are with. Oh, and Dallas Willard.
Dallas Willard. Yeah. Dallas Willard, Tim Keller. Actually, I got a ton out of just my ESV study Bible, which is really deep and a lot of fun stuff in there. I don't read like pure theology because I need Skye to take the cookies from the top shelf and put them on the middle shelf, and then I take them from the middle shelf and I spread them all over the floor for the ants. Is really what I do. Actually, John Walton was a consultant on what's in the Bible, and I learned a lot from him.
Yeah.
There are others that I'm probably not thinking of.
Yeah.
I'm not as well read as Mr. I actually have a seminary degree.
Yeah, that's the thing. I had to go to seminary and read all those. But even that, I prefer the guys who put the cookies slightly lower too.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Like who?
Well, these aren't people that you would find. They wouldn't be categorized as theologians, but I find their insights in the spiritual life to be incredibly helpful. I mean, Dallas Willard was not a theologian.
He
technically.
wasn't?
He was a philosopher.
Right.
But
He taught philosophy at USC.
when I was in seminary, obviously I had to read Karl Barth and Calvin and all these other giants of theology, which is great. But probably the person in seminary that helped me the most was Henry Nouwen.
Oh, yeah.
And he's definitely
He's
not a theologian,
No.
not at all. But
Well, so what is the definition? What's the difference between a philosopher or a theologian? How do you become a theologian?
well, theologian is somebody who is really teaching theology or facts about God, which can be completely divorced from the actual life with God.
Right, but it would go beyond teaching to doing
Explaining,
scholarship
right,
on it as
yeah.
well. So if you're published on the topic of theology, you can probably call yourself a theologian.
And are there a set number of
There can only be
accepted
12 at any given time.
No, are there-
And then another one is born and one has to
You're
die.
not even listening to my question.
Sorry.
Are there an accepted number of Christian theologies out there? Like there's 10 acceptable different theologies.
No.
No. It gets
No.
very complicated.
There's
depending on-
infinite shades of gray. Have you seen that movie about Christian theology?
No, I haven't. Maybe
Yeah,
you should
okay.
produce it.
And I could list many others, but you guys already said Willard and Lewis, and there's so
Yeah, the usual suspects.
Right.
Is there anyone unusual that's out of that you might recommend?
Oh, my.
Scott McKnight, Gary Burge, any of...
Scott McKnight's a friend. He's great. I like his stuff a lot. N.T. Wright is probably the most significant on New Testament stuff. And then Walter Brueggemann on Old Testament stuff. I really like both of those.
N.T. Wright, New Testament, Walter Brueggemann,
and
Old Testament.
Christopher Wright.
Christopher Wright.
Christopher Wright. No.
Wasn't he in Winnie the Pooh?
That was Christopher Robin.
Oh, was he a theologian?
No.
Christopher Wright is...
Actually, he is in his own right.
Yeah.
Christopher Wright is an Old Testament theologian, but especially focuses on mission theology.
Okay.
He's
All
fantastic.
Right. We can't spend any more time on that question. I'm very sorry.
There's plenty of
I have
other
to keep
people
moving.
to talk about.
Have you ever considered, this is from Aaron Johnson, have you ever considered doing a podcast talking about Christian denominations? No, that sounds hideously
I think we've
boring.
done that. We have talked a lot about denominations.
A little bit. We haven't done a whole podcast.
We haven't gone through them.
Like
and
going through the big periodic chart of denominations to see what their...
where their origins are, or where they splintered.
No, that sounds like...
See, that's a Christian history
sounds a little dry.
podcast, which
I think it
to
might be a
me
little
sounds
dry.
very interesting. I'm with you.
Okay. Aaron also said, have you seen The Story of God featuring Morgan Freeman? What's your opinion
Yes.
of it? I have not seen it. Skye, I bet, has not seen it.
I have not seen it.
I've seen it.
Christian has seen it. Do you like it? Are you liking
I'm continuing to watch it. I'm on the miracles right now. Here's my deal. He is some sort of universalist thinker. You know, he was started off as a Christian, raised in a Christian home. He actually, I've learned during this thing, almost died and, felt like it was a miracle that he was saved.
How did he almost die?
He died, he got some sort of lung infection or something like that, and it was just when he was little. Oh. And
How many minutes did he spend in heaven?
He came really close to dying. He didn't say that. He didn't say he went to heaven. But anyway, so since then, I think he's gotten to know a lot of people who are Buddhists or who are Hindu, and he has been interested in, and Muslims, he's been interested in all these different religions. So he's taking all of them, and he's just asking questions and listening.
Yeah, that's good.
So what's different is he goes and he just listens as each one of them presents their...
So who's he talking to that represents Christianity?
Oh, gosh, you
Oprah?
don't... The first one he interviewed was, I hate to say this, Joel Osteen.
Okay, well, there you go.
But he was interviewing people about the big churches and worship experiences and things like that. So I didn't get as far in the miracle ones as who he was talking to in the Christian world.
It's all who you talk to.
It truly is. But anyway,
and that's true
I've
for the
learned
other
a lot
faiths as
about
well.
other religions. One of the things I wanted to run by you is he interviewed a guy in Islam, or
A Muslim.
A Muslim. He interviewed him.
Muslim. That's one of the things I learned on the podcast was how to pronounce
it.
Muslim.
He was an ISIS fighter that left, and he came to explain to Morgan Freeman that the people in ISIS are not Muslims; they are Islamists.
That's the terminology that people are using now. Not ISIS themselves. They would say they're very devout Muslims.
They would probably disagree with that.
But outside, yeah.
That's a different podcast.
Sorry.
That's different.
Different
But,
podcast.
yeah, there's a lot going on there.
What's the difference between a Muslim and an Islamist?
Well, I wrote a piece about the difference between Christianity and Christianism.
Oh, right.
Or Christianists.
Yeah, just read it and do a search and replace on the words, and you'll have.
We're just answering questions today.
Yes. Okay. Ann Gillis says, "What are your favorite Disney films?" Skye, favorite Disney film.
Dumbo.
Seriously?
Seriously.
That was Walt's favorite Disney
I grew up on that. Still, I just watched it recently with my youngest daughter, and I get choked up every time.
Christian, favorite Disney film?
I would have to say Cinderella.
Whoa.
That's old school too.
I don't know that I have one.
How could you?
I don't know that I have one.
How could you?
I don't think.
What was it? When that question was asked you, what was the first thing that popped into your mind?
Actually, Inside Out. It was like the last one I saw that I really liked. It was like, wow, that's a good film.
It was good.
It's a really good film. I'm still trying to get my kids to see Zootopia, and they're convinced they won't like it, so
Is
they
it
won't
good?
see it. It's good. Yeah, it's like 98% fresh on.
That's
on
one
Rotten
we should
Tomatoes.
talk about sometime because there are so many interesting cultural messages in
Really?
that. Oh yeah.
I like The Little Mermaid too.
Skye, I think I remember you touching shortly on marriage in heaven. Could you expand on how you interpret that scripture?
Yeah, there's no marriage in heaven.
Which is what that scripture says.
Yeah, I don't know what more do I need to say.
How will I keep other men away from my wife if there's no marriage in heaven?
Well, if there's no marriage in heaven,
Yeah. take it up with Jesus. I mean, he's the one who said this.
I know, but it's going to be kind of sad.
I don't think
Is heaven sad, Skye?
No.
Well, are we going to be lonely?
No.
Am I going to have a mansion that only I live in by myself without being married? Because that does not sound heavenly.
Is there surround
As much
sound
as I want a mansion.
in heavenly mansions? I think this is a different podcast.
Yeah, I don't know what more to say.
Could we talk about heaven in a podcast?
C.S. Lewis had a really good comment about this.
Which was?
Surround sound in heaven?
If I get it correctly, he talked about when he was a little boy, he loved chocolate, and it was like the greatest pleasure he could imagine as a little boy. And if somebody came along and in some way explained the pleasure of sexual intimacy as a little boy, he never would have been able to understand or comprehend it, and it would have sounded horrible to think that I can't have chocolate, but I'm going to have this other thing. And similarly, if someone says there's no marriage in heaven, we're like that little boy who can't imagine life without chocolate or a better pleasure than that. We just don't know what to compare it to, so all we think about is what's being taken away, not what's being gained.
Maybe it's going to be like we're the Borg, and so we're all connected.
That sounds unholy.
Sounds like a form of marriage. I'm against it.
That sounds like a cult.
We don't have a good answer for you there, sorry. Go to heaven and then right back. John Noto, or Noto, or...
How's it spelled?
N-O-T-O. Noto? Noto. I like it. Whatever it is, I like it. Has 4 questions, some of which we've already answered here. Favorite conversations on the show that you've had. I think we answered that. What other voices do you all listen to in the space of podcasts and preachers and thought leaders? Thought leaders would you listen to?
I don't listen to any other Christian podcasts except Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
I do that from time to time. It depends on the episode.
Welcome along.
Because I like to hear, I think they have a really good, honest conversation with...
They do. I can't listen to too many of them, though, because it's stressful for me. I'm conflict averse.
Yes, you are.
And they're debates between believers and unbelievers, and it's a little stressful for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm always afraid, what if the unbeliever wins? Then
That's not what stresses me out.
I think you just don't like people not getting along.
Yeah, I don't like that very much.
I don't mind that at all. But that
doesn't bother you at all?
It doesn't bother me. I grew up in a home of conflict. I'm okay with it. The part that bothers me is when I'm agreeing with the Christian, but the Christian's being a total jerk.
Yeah,
that's what bothers me. It's like, okay, you're winning the argument, but you're losing the war here, buddy.
Yeah. So other thought leaders that you appreciate?
Oh, yeah, there's a lot. Actually, we're going to have one on the podcast pretty soon.
Yeah, next week.
Yeah, Russell Moore.
Russell Moore. Okay, you like Russell Moore?
I like Russell Moore. I mean, yeah.
I'm enjoying David Gushie's writing.
Yeah, he's I've met him before.
Stuff. I don't know him.
Let's have
Who
him
is
on the
he?
podcast. He's
an
columnist,
ethicist.
an ethicist and a columnist.
He's gotten himself in a little bit of heat. He wrote a cover story for CT years ago about torture when that was all being debated and how we need to be against torture as Christians. He's sort of been an evangelical poster boy for public ethics, but got on the bad side. Was it last year or 2 years ago when he came out in favor of gay marriage?
Oh, dear.
So that's kind of put him in that
Oh,
interesting
dear.
intersection there.
Yeah, he's the one who wrote the piece about whether progressive and conservative evangelicals were headed for divorce.
Yeah.
And because the middle, he was
Right.
saying, can we hold a middle together anymore?
Apparently not.
No, because of Lawrence Welk.
If I can answer that question a little bit askew, honestly, the voices I appreciate and value the most are ones you've probably not heard of, because they tend not to be big, well-known mega church. There's some guys out there like Tim Keller and others who are wonderful, but people who I really value their opinions of, who I think are really thoughtful and smart. Some write books. Some of them are pastors, local pastors, but most of them are not Christian celebrities because, frankly, they're just too thoughtful.
Well, is it possible for you to share those names
Give
so
us
that
one.
we might
Give them
read
one
those
that they
books?
should go look up.
Because I think
Yeah.
it's important that we learn to read them ourselves.
Give us one.
I'll give you one. Tom Nelson. He's the pastor of Christ
I've
Community.
never even heard of him.
Exactly.
That's the whole point.
He wrote a book called Work Matters.
Okay.
He is a senior pastor of a church in Kansas City, Christ Community Church. He is a wonderful pastor, a wonderful guy. His thinking about whole life discipleship and integrating faith into your work and your vocation and calling is phenomenal. And he's not just a good thinker, he's just a wonderful person. And the type of Christian leader that I wish was more well-known and engaged on public issues more frequently, because he does so with grace and thoughtfulness. But I could list 20 other people and we'll have some of them on the
think you
podcast
should.
in the coming months, especially if you fund it.
Yeah, right.
I got to keep going. Josh says, how do you get into specifically Christian cartoon voiceover work?
Oh, that's one for me.
Unfortunately, there really isn't such a thing. No one's making Christian cartoons, so you can't really get into Christian cartoon voiceover work. But if you want to just get into voiceover work.
Yes, if you want to get into voiceover work,
make a
just
demo.
email me. Email me at info@taylorproductionsltd.com. I actually do talent consulting, and I help people break into that business.
Okay.
I don't want to give away my secrets.
Now we move to our Twitter questions. These are in from Twitter. Gabe Miller says, Skye, what are some of your favorite movies from 2015 or 2016 so far?
Okay. Star Wars: The Force Awakens, clearly.
Absolutely.
So a big 2015 favorite. Ant-Man. I mean, these are all like big Disney, Marvel
Any
type
little
movies.
ones? Did you see any little movies?
I'm sure I did.
Did you see Hail Caesar?
No. With some others.
Is that good?
With some other, I remember watching some of the Oscars last year and going, I didn't see any of these movies, so I don't know what to think about them.
Okay. Because you're mostly going with your kids now?
Yeah, I'm a dad who takes kids. Like,
Yeah.
I went and saw Captain America: Civil War twice this weekend.
Are you kidding me?
No. Because I had to go with one kid. One point I was invited out, and then the other kids wanted to go, and so I went and saw it twice. It was really good, by the way.
I won't ask how much you paid in Toto.
Yeah, that's a lot.
I know.
Yeah.
It was not good.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got to support
But we
the
went
podcast
matinee.
so we can keep sending Skye to Marvel films.
We went matinee.
Oh, matinee.
I'm trying to think of other movies that I have seen that were really good. I like Spotlight.
Yes.
It was
The
messed
Big
up.
Short.
The Big
Spotlight
Short.
and The Big Short.
The Big Short was
Spotlight
also
and
very
The Big
good.
Short.
Yes.
Okay. Megan Loves Paul says, Phil, what will you play when the ukulele goes out of style? Megan or Paul, I will play the ukulele. Thank you.
Style is irrelevant. Irrelevant. I can get it out.
Style matters not when one loves one's instrument. Screen Hog says, the show Christian hosted with the wives was great. Any chance at a repeat of that? Yeah, we could do that again sometime.
Yeah, and my thought on that is I think it would be more interesting if the viewers and listeners sent in questions.
Yeah.
And if they did that, I could basically just,
So we'll announce that sometime if there's going to be another wives. Do you think, would Amanda do it again?
I don't know. I haven't asked her.
I could talk them into it.
She's not crazy about that sort of thing.
Friar chocolate.
Steve Gibbs says, love you guys. Could you do a segment of the show that answers questions once every month? Probably.
Well, you
That's
know
a
what?
good idea.
If you go on Patreon, and is it $10 a month? You can do the live Q&A with me and Phil and Christian if she's around.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Absolutely. Skye, who influenced you most?
My parents.
Okay.
Genetically, at least.
There you go.
And after that,
My family.
no.
Well, like, it influenced me in what way?
Hey, this is Twitter.
So
Well, you're gonna get an
let me
answer over
ask.
less than 140 characters.
Spiritually, who influenced you? Who led you to the Lord?
The Holy Spirit.
Oh my word! This is
Don't-
like God,
Don't ask
Jesus,
Skye.
Holy
Don't
Spirit.
ask Skye simple questions.
I mean, when I was little, my mother obviously had a significant influence. But as I got older, this could be a long story. Maybe we'll do that on a different podcast.
Okay, different podcast. Peter says, for each of you, what's the most important thing God has taught you in the past year? That's not a whole podcast.
Why are you looking at me again?
I don't know.
Okay, look at me. Most important thing in the last year is that it is not always going to be clear. It will be murky at times. Just keep
You've known
going.
that before this last year.
I have, but I've always, it's like, it's going to clear up. It's about to clear up. And then it'll be clear again like it's supposed to be. If you look at murky as, this is just a passing thing. Normal state is clear. And I can see for 10 years. And I'm having to start to shift. No, I think murky might be closer to the normal state. And clear is a blessing. You say, this is awesome. Don't get, over-attached.
Paul talks about that in 1 Corinthians 13. Now we look through a glass dimly, but then we shall see clearly.
Was he talking about my future?
I think so.
I'm not exactly sure that's what he was talking about, but that's okay.
Okay.
Do you have the most important thing from the last year?
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
Yes, I do.
Was it?
The most important thing I've learned in the past year is, like I said, my best friend challenged me to read through the Bible for the year. And the significant difference that doing that every day has made in my life has been significant in terms of peacefulness and quickly recognizing if I've hurt other people or I'm not walking right, being more repentant more quickly, but mostly the presence of the Lord.
Okay.
That's made a big difference.
Skye, anything from the last year?
Wow.
You got these questions in advance.
I know, but I didn't
He
look at them.
sent us the questions
I
in
didn't look
advance.
at them. I thought I'd never know anything else in
Skye.
advance on this podcast. I write a daily devotional.
You're not
people.
you're not letting him realize that it's
All right.
important and helpful to do
All
that by not
I would
preparing.
say one of them is the importance of asking.
What does that mean?
What that means
Okay.
is, I think Jesus says, "Ask and you shall receive." But I think the humility of having to ask people for what you need, rather than trying to be self-sufficient,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
and not just waiting for them to figure out what you need, but actually having to go to them and say, "I need this."
Like
That's
going to your audience and saying, we need you to support us financially
Exactly.
on patreon.com. Phil Vischer. Okay.
I think you have to let go of your pride.
Yeah.
And just
Right.
so that's been a big learning area for me.
Right.
Cool.
I hear you. Bros, Bibles, and Beer,
I like that.
someone's Twitter handle, says, what belief about God or how he works in the world has changed since you started this wonderful show? We kind of touched on this earlier, but for me, it's how much God can work through friendship across ideological lines. I think we do far too little of that. Spend far too much time with our own tribes, just talking to people that think like we do. And God works really miraculously when you get out of your tribe and jump into someone else's tribe. Okay. For Phil, what's your favorite film ever? Not one you made. Oh, not one I made. Not familiar with any other films. The films that really stick with me tend to be films that inspired me creatively at a certain point in my life and my creative evolution. So there are a lot of films that I love that are kind of the typical everybody loved that film, Inside Out, for example. But the ones that inspire me tend to be films like Terry Gilliam's Time Bandits, which I saw in high school. It was like, whoa, that is a whole different way to make a family movie. Or the Coen brothers' Hudsucker Proxy,
I love
which
that
inspired
movie.
like 2 or 3 VeggieTales characters. Or Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, also from the Coen brothers. Moonrise Kingdom from Wes Anderson. So I tend to be inspired more by filmmakers than by films. And I've been inspired by Tim Burton. I've been inspired by the Coen brothers, and then Wes Anderson are probably the 3. And Terry Gilliam, Brazil, if you go way back, Baron Munchausen. And it's a little concerning that very few of the films that I really like would be considered successful.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, you also forgot
Yeah.
to throw in there the Monty Python things. Those were super influential.
Yes. Yeah. Although I think it was more the TV show than the films.
Okay.
So, yeah, just their skits. Okay, Nathan says, do you know what percentage of your listeners are Christians? I asked because I'm fairly agnostic, but love listening to the show.
I love that he's agnostic and listens to the show.
I want to know, was he a Christian when he started listening?
Have we pushed you into agnosticism? Oh, Lord, I hope not. Well, we're glad you listen to the show. I would say the vast majority of the audience is Christian. We don't have any research on that, though, but we could try to do it.
Let's do this. If you're an agnostic or an atheist listening to the podcast, just
Or
leave
of
us,
another variety.
yes, of something else we don't
faith.
know. Just leave us a little note on the Facebook page or on Twitter.
Who was the most influential writer in your life? I think we've kind of touched on that. And mentioned the last 5 books read.
Oh, man.
Mine are easy.
What's the last couple? Just mention 2 books. Last 2 books.
3 of them are all by George MacDonald. So Fantastes,
okay.
The Princess and the Goblin, and Princess and Curdie.
Okay.
And then With and Futureville.
Okay.
I've read 3 books in the last 2 weeks that aren't published yet.
Oh,
So can I give the titles out
Sure.
anyway? One is called The Way of the Dragon and the Way of the Lamb. One is called Look. And one is called God Has a Name. They're all manuscripts that I've more doing something with.
good luck
And
finding
what did you think about them?
Skye's books.
They were all fantastic.
They were good?
They were,
Who
yeah.
wrote them?
Look is written by James Gilmore, who's a friend of mine and a business writer. He wrote The Experience Economy. The Way of the Dragon, The Way of the Lamb is written by Jamin Goggin and Kyle Strobel. So that book will be coming out in the next couple months. And then God Has a Name is being written by John Mark Comer, who's a pastor in Portland, and it's his new book that I've been helping on some editorial levels with.
Okay.
You didn't answer that.
Oh, yeah. I've been reading David Sedaris.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah.
He's funny.
Which one?
Like 3 or 4 of them.
Oh, really?
I was getting
Kind of hooked.
I was just catching up on David Sedaris.
If you ever listen to his audio versions,
Yeah, I've listened to
Oh, really?
some of
Does
the
he read
audio.
them?
fantastic. Yeah, he and
Yeah,
other voice actors. They're
reads them.
fantastic.
And I also, because I'm redoing philvischer.com, the website, just read Mike Hyatt's Platform book for people who are trying to build their platform online, like me.
Was it helpful?
Yeah, it was helpful. It's a lot of very simple stuff, but some of it's like, okay, that's helpfully
And websites
simple.
are getting more simple, which
And
is
I
nice.
also just recently reread A.W. Tozer's The Pursuit of God, which is good.
That is such a good one.
Read that at least every 5 years or so. Okay, now we're going to rush through a couple because we're kind of out of time. As Canadians, how should we prepare for the upcoming U.S. presidential election? Should we build a wall to keep Trump out?
Yes.
No,
definitely.
he's not going to come to Canada. But many of us might. So
You might need a wall.
Including me.
Decide whether you want to keep us
But only for the summer.
out.
Otherwise, I'm going to Mexico.
That was from Ian. Brett says, seriously, why haven't you guys started making podcast T-shirts?
We might now.
I was involved in making a lot of merchandise at Big Idea, and I know that it's not as that it takes time, that you actually have to pay attention. Someone has to do it, and it takes time, it takes a little money. So that's one of the things we want to do if we can raise a little money is take some time to make T-shirts and maybe even mugs.
And tote bags.
And tote bags.
Mugs and tote bags.
We need tote bags. What's your favorite snack?
My favorite snack. I don't.
Chocolate. Anything.
Any kind of chocolate?
Anything chocolate.
I really like chili cheese flavored Fritos. It's my favorite.
Oh, that reminds me. I like the lime Tostitos.
Yes, me too. Hints
And
of lime.
salt and pepper kettle chips.
What's
Oh,
your
me
favorite?
too.
Black pepper ones.
What's your favorite Star Wars character?
Han
favorite-
Solo.
Admiral Akbar. Clearly.
The little.
Did you almost say Jar Jar Binks?
No, I
You
almost
did-
said Jabba the Hutt, but the little creature in the Jabba the Hutt scene.
Yeah.
the little furry guy.
Yeah, what's his name? Salacious Crumb.
Okay. Favorite musician?
Mine is Harry Connick Jr.
Oh, wow. Do you have one?
Depends what genre. I kind of like Sting. I know he's not
Oh, I
popular.
love Sting.
I like
I love him.
like-
Yeah.
Okay, I like Dave Brubeck.
Oh, yeah.
He's one of my favorites.
listen to-
Favorite pizza topping?
Mine is barbecue chicken.
If I only have one, it's pepperoni.
Hawaiian. Is that a topping?
No, that's
Hawaiian.
pepperoni or
No, you
ham
take
with
a
pineapple.
Hawaiian guy and you thinly slice him and
You
you
like-
lay him on the pizza.
I think we're discovering that you have a secret thing for all things Hawaiian.
I don't know what you're talking
the
about.
ukulele.
Favorite theologian? Oh, I don't know.
Skye Jethani.
No, I don't have a favorite theologian.
mine.
Do you have a favorite theologian?
Right, N.T. Wright,
N.T. Wright.
probably.
Okay.
Living, anyway.
Favorite impressionist painter?
Oh, mine is Renoir, Monet, Degas.
You're naming all of them.
Yeah, I know.
There you
I
go.
can't pick one.
I don't know how to pronounce it. Kyle Bote. I like him.
I also like Jean
Well,
Claude
did he say
Camille
impressionist or expressionist?
Impressionist.
Impressionist.
That's not Van Gogh.
I can't pick one.
Okay.
It's my favorite
Tell
era
us
of art.
truly, once and for all, is this the end of Western civilization?
We'll let you know in November.
I think, I was thinking about this the other day, and the root of civilization is civil. Mm-hmm. And that is what we're losing.
Civility.
Civility.
That is so true.
And if we lose civility, haven't we lost civilization? I'm just listening, I've been catching up on like other podcasts and the writing of other humor writers, and I'm just noticing the coarseness of language used almost universally by comedians, humorists, and it's ways no one would have thought to speak 50 years ago. And that's civility, which we're losing, which is the root of civilization. So yes, it is at least the decline of Western civilization.
Let me ask you this.
Thank you.
Is that just in America? Is it still civil in other parts of the world?
I don't know how much it varies. Well, there are parts where there would be enforced civility, in more oppressive areas. I don't think you can be as off color on TV in China as you can in America now.
I think part of it is civility is something you actually have to work deliberately toward in more diverse environments. America's a very diverse place, and I was thinking about when I was a kid in the 80s, and again, my perspective can be totally skewed, but things just seemed less nasty, right? Mm-hmm. And then in the 90s with Bill Clinton, it started getting worse, and I'm not saying it's his fault, but what happened at that time was the emergence of 24-hour cable news.
No, that happened in the 80s.
I know, but you didn't have multiple networks of it until
True.
the 90s.
True.
And then you had all that competition, and then you have the internet exploding, and now that there's so many voices all trying to get attention, it breeds a
right.
Well,
craziness.
Exploding of the internet.
A race to the bottom.
Yeah.
It's the combination of free market competition for eyeballs plus the notion that the Puritanism that said certain words were bad has been rejected, or certain behaviors were bad, or that the rules of the church. Basically, we've thrown off authority. And combine that with a free market, and you get kind of a free fall of civility.
You've got Lord of the Flies is
Thank
what you got.
Thank you very much.
I don't like ending on this note.
We didn't. We're not going to end on that note.
Oh, yay.
One last question. When is Skye's new book coming out? It sounds wonderful.
It should be out the first week of June.
Oh, that the
ebook.
ebook?
Oh, and
The ebook.
Did you pick a title?
I haven't yet. I saw some of the suggestions.
Yeah.
I haven't seen all of them, but I need a title by tomorrow. It's
Okay.
we got to do
There
this.
were some good ones on there.
Can't help you there.
Yeah.
Someone requested that I attempt to sing a song summarizing all 200 episodes. That first I dismissed that completely as an impossibility. And I thought, well, maybe I can kind of broadly summarize all 200 episodes with a song, but I don't think I can write it. I'd have to write it out. I can't make it up. So if I write it out, I can't play it live because I'm just not good at that. And I forget the chords and I forget the words and then I make a terrible mess. So I pre-recorded it. So I'm going to play for you the song I pre-recorded earlier today to summarize 200 episodes with a ukulele. And it goes something like this. Atheists and gays, the end of days. Young Earth, old Earth, 20 different ways. Putting new guests in the hot seat. Why doesn't Skye like Blinky Pete? Anthropology, sociology, archaeology, biology, theology. Oh golly gee, that's a lot of ologies. Don't you want to sing with me? Christian dressed so bright and gaily. Phil sums it up with his ukulele. Skye comes dressed as the man in black. Sorry to offend, let's walk that back. And these are 200 episodes. It kinda makes my head explode to think of all that work. But next week we'll do another one, 'cause making these, well, it's kind of fun to talk about everything under the sun without acting like a jerk, while drinking water out of Captain Kirk and Spock. Hey, where did those mugs go? 'Cause this is the Phil Vischer Podcast. Okay, thanks for coming. Staying tuned for 200 episodes. We will see you in 200 more when we ask, 100 more when we ask your questions again. Go to Patreon website, patreon.com, and look for Phil Vischer and help us out. See you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.